that's a go. Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome back to another awesome episode of Gothically Yours, Professor M. I'm Professor M. In this wonderful lecture today, I'm going to be covering a question that was asked of me. This question was left by anonymous I9Y on my 10 Ungoth Confessions video, and it's right up here so you can read it with me. They wrote, "Hi, can't goth guys be masculine?" And I wrote back, "Oh my goth, Anonymous. That is a whole new video idea. Thank you. I will create one and credit you for asking the question." So today, please join me on Gothically Yours. We'll be challenging and dealing with masculinity and sexuality within the goth community. Join me. So for me to get right down to business, I have a lot of notes to cover. Some of you know that I am a real university professor. And being a part of the goth subculture, I have to research all of this material. And this question intrigued me severely. So today, without further ado, I'm going to be talking about the complexity of masculinity within the goth subculture today. And you'll be surprised, I might actually change your mind about a few things. Let's start off with the question one more time. The question said, can't goth guys be masculine? Well, they may have been actually watching my videos and questioning my sexuality, which is none of their business and none of anyone's business. The second part about that is, you have to ask yourself, what precisely are they asking? Well, the questions has to be separated into two parts. Are they talking about sexuality, or are they talking about masculinity per se? You've got to separate sexuality and masculinity. Masculinity is its own entity over here, and sexuality is its own entity over here. Let's talk about sexuality first, shan't we? If you don't know this, there is an amazing thing called the Kinsey scale, and it looks like this. Kinsey scale breaks up a person's masculinity and femininity into different parts. Now this works completely the same for males and females. It ranges you where you are precisely. The lower the number, the more straighter you are. The higher the number, the more homosexual you are. And that works the same counterintuitively for a female. So males and females are judged the same on a Kinsey scale, whether you are a straight female or a lesbian. You are a straight male or a gay male. So in that case, you put this down here and you look at this very uniquely. Where do you fit in on the Kinsey scale? Well, there's this magical area in between called 3. And there's a part called bisexuality, which is often considered the unicorns of the sexuality world because they can have both male and female partners, and that makes them sometimes looked down upon. I've actually heard the word greedy used to describe them. Instead of just choosing one gender or the other, they decide to have a buffet of all. How interesting, huh? Well, let's go a little bit more into male goth identity after we understand what a Kinsey scale is. This has nothing to do with masculinity. You're kidding? No. You have to separate sexuality and masculinity. Masculinity is defined in a completely different section. There are 5 components to masculinity. Let me read what they are. The first thing that makes up masculinity is courage. The next thing that makes up masculinity is independence. The third thing is leadership. I know a lot about that one. The next one is assertiveness, ability to know. And the last one is strength. So when we look at this and separate sexuality from masculinity, what precisely are the values of this? And if you are talking about a male, a goth male, who performs things that are androgynous, then you're going to get confused. You gotta know that in the goth sub-community, our subculture, there is gender bending, has been gender bending from the beginning, where things that are feminine become into the masculine world, and things that are masculine go into the feminine world, where females can wear male clothing and males can wear female clothing, and we don't blink an eye at it. I've seen goth sisters walk around with suits and have ties on, where I've seen goth males have corsets on and veils, and you know, that's our gig. This is the things that we love. This is the goth subculture. Get it? Good. Now that you've separated one entity from the other, and sexuality is over here, and masculinity is over here, and understanding about what the goth subculture is, don't make all this amok. This individual, I believe, is blending. Anonymous's question is blending everything into one big mixing bowl, and it makes it look like there's no such thing as masculinity within the goth subculture. Ha! No, there's plenty of it. Every goth male that I've ever known is plenty masculine. So, let's go a little bit more down into the androgyny part, shan't we? Over the many years that I have gone to clubs, I have seen males and females do absolutely incredible things. That's what makes us so unique. We can explore each other's gender without having to worry about crossing lines or being judged. But the person that's underneath the makeup, the fingernail polish, the jewelry, or the clothing is not unfeminine because they're dressed, or unmasculine because they're dressed a certain way. That's the outer shell, the inner shell. What makes the person a person is very important. Again, that is courage, independence, leadership, assertiveness, and strength. So let me go in. We need to also know that there's two elements. We have a soft element and a hard element within any gender. And I'm not talking about the goth subculture. I'm talking outside in the workaday world. You've got soft males and you have hard males. You've got soft females and you have hard females. Professor M, what are you talking about? I will explain. Soft males come across as educated, gentlemanlike. They are very white-collar people. They sit at desks with computers. They not rough. They don't do sports very well. They're into the arts, more into driving luxury cars. They're very soft and gentle in many different ways. These are traits, okay, of soft males. Let's flip over here to hard males. Hard males are often broken up into ones that are very macho, leather-wearing. They're bikers usually. They have industrial jobs, blue-collar workers. They're very sportsmanlike, hunting, fishing, gaming, usually ride motorcycles, blah, blah, blah. This stuff is outer shell. This is their veneer. That's the veneer of it, okay? So when we talk about a soft male and a hard male, that still is not defining masculinity or femininity at all. Because you have soft females and hard females. That's the outer shell. That's what you see with your eyes. So where precisely is masculinity? It's in here. Masculinity comes back to those 5 traits I just mentioned. I'll mention them one more time. Courage, independence, leadership, assertiveness, and strength. I'm going to talk about the first one, courage. You've got to have a lot of balls. Courage. Excuse me. You've got to have a lot of courage to get out there and go in public and dress as a goth. You've got to have a lot of courage to go out there and do that. People judging you, looking at you, laughing at you, photographing you. I've had it all. I've done all that. You get to a point where someone you know very closely says, "Hey, take that off. No, I'm not going to take it off. I am who I am. You live your life, I'm going to live mine. It takes courage to live life this way, you know? It takes courage to be a goth male or goth female and do what you want to do and openly do it without question or being questioned and having to deal it in a very gentle and kind and very polite manner. Second part of that is independence. I am who I am and I'm alone doing it. I've been independent since I was 19 years old, been on my own. Independence is when you do something without configuration from some other entity. It's when someone else doesn't have influence over it. You are your own person. Independence. No one's holding your hand. And that leads into the next one called leadership. When you're doing something that no one else is doing, you are the leader of the pack. You are the one who is leading and doing something. Hey, while I got your attention, I have to say something. Leadership comes in many different packages. When I scrolled through for the last 5 years of YouTube, I had discovered for every 9 or more goth sisters who have got goth YouTube channels, there was only one male that was leading the way in this. I got into making these videos because I was looking for goth male fashion materials, and I realized there was no videos out there. I was making the very thing that I was looking for. And that becomes a quality of what? Leadership. Because doing something that there was a hole that needed to be filled and I was going to fill it. Next one is assertiveness, knowing, know thyself. I forgot how that is said in Latin. Natis naturae, know thyself. And what's so important about that is, you know whether you're a goth or not. You know. This question came up before. Are you born a goth? Are you created as a goth? Does it come basically? I believe that you were born into the body and then later on you awaken. Something triggers it off. I had a goth mom and she was my guiding light. So we knew very early, very, very early, this is a family thing. DNA. I'd like to talk with you a little bit more that there's a falsity also to knowing precisely all of these balance elements. And the last one on this list over here is strength. And that is going to be the basis and the groundwork for my talk today. Strength is the ultimate conceptual concept of masculinity. Without strength, you can't do anything. You can't have courage. You can't have independence. You can't have leadership. You can't have assertiveness without strength. Strength is the power. Strength is the bedrock. Strength is the cornerstone. Strength is everything that you stand on to be whom you are and what you are. Think about it. Let that sink in for a moment. It takes strength to be a goth in any shape, word, or form. And I don't care if you're a feminine form or a masculine form, male or female, you have to have strength in order to live this way, to be yourself, to openly be whom you are. Now, the goth community, we have had so many misconceptions that float over our heads that we are depressed, we belong to a cult, we have psychological problems. I wrote a list over here of some things that stood out. Oh, here it is. We are aggressive, dangerous. We're into cross-dressing. We do mixtures of makeup and nail painting. There's a lot of misconceptions of cults, occult material. I mean, what is all that about? Well, a lot of that was answered in an article that was written online by a man by the name of Matthew Frank. I hope he's a professor. He wrote an article just recently, this was October 18th, 2023, is called 13 Facts About Goth Guys. Now, I had to read the article very clearly, and 3 parts stood out to me. The first one was, he said that goth people are less conformist. Oh, I love that. Absolutely. We are less conformist. We have an acceptance for makeup and traditionally feminine clothing. We have a broader emotional spectrum. I love that. We have a broader emotional spectrum that indicates that this community values individuality over conformity. Thank you, Professor Frank. I loved your thesis. I can't wait to read the rest of it. And then another professor wrote, this was an article that was written. I'm going to find out if there's a date on this. Yes, this was published in the spring of 2007 from the University of Minnesota, okay, which is where I got my graduate's degree. My master's degree came from that university. Aha. So yes, I do have a master's degree from the University of Minnesota. And this was written, I believe, by Professor Goodlad, and she wrote an article called Looking for Something Forever Gone, Goth Masculinity, Androgyny, and Ethics at the Turn of the Millennium. The article goes into saying about the blending of femininity and masculinity as one entity. And to come into a conclusion as I finalize this lecture, I would have to say this very important thing. Every goth male that I've ever met was a very strong individual. They contained and had strength. And that was the strongest of the 5 elements of masculinity. So to answer Anonymous's questions, can goth guys be masculine? The answer to this, we are, and absolutely. With that being said, I'm signing off. Gothically Old's Professor M.